thermometers are important for us to do calculations on density, altitude, and blah, blah, blah. But what it means if you're a baboon is this is something to grab onto. Welcome to 10-Minute Travels. With me, as always, is Phil Freeman.
And with me, as always, is Shane Patrick. And tonight we're going to talk a little bit about flying helicopters in Africa.
Let's get right to it, shall we?
Are there any out of the ordinary days flying a helicopter there?
Well, that's the deal with being a pilot, right? After you learn how to do everything, and while it's all exciting and whatnot, you're going for routine. You just want it to be routine. That you go up, you're going to go down. Hopefully it all works out. And there were a couple occasions that weren't quite routine. I think the most memorable is I was parked at a camp, and there was a porter who was in charge of watching the helicopter while I was eating lunch or whatever. His job was to
Baboon away.
Pretty much, he was baboon patrol. Yep. And I don't know what he was doing, but he missed it, and he came running and told me that there was a problem, and so we went to the helicopter, and there was a problem. They had, on Jet Rangers, there is a spot where the thermometer goes through the windscreen. Thermometers are important for us to do calculations on density, altitude, and blah, blah, blah. But what it means if you're a baboon is this is something to grab onto. Pull it. And so what it did was it put a little hole in the windscreen. Now there's a place for one of them to put their hand. And they're strong, right? So it ripped the windscreen off and got inside and chewed on headsets and generally made a mess of things. Could have been worse. They didn't poop or pee in there.
They didn't even trophy poo it?
No, they didn't mark the territory, which is really nice.
Did they get caught? Did they have to get out of there?
He said that he never saw them, but I think he probably scared them away when he woke up from his nap or whatever and realized.
How many minutes does it take all that to happen?
Oh, I bet it was 20 seconds.
Wow.
It might have been a minute and 20 seconds, but I doubt it because there wasn't much damage. They took a couple of the headsets and ran with them, but they didn't take them very far because I think he was yelling at them or whatever. But there was some damage. The windscreen was missing, and it was on my side. A Jet Ranger has a spar down the middle, so there's a bubble window and a bubble window. So the left side, the front passenger's window, was intact. Mine was not. And so I got on my satellite telephone and I explained to my boss what had happened as best to my knowledge. And he said, "Very good. You need to fly that machine into town right now so we can get started on repairing it." And I'm like, I don't really feel comfortable flying this thing. And he said, "Well, the windscreen on a Jet Ranger is not structural, so nothing is going to happen to the helicopter if you fly it without a windscreen. And based on my experience flying Jet Rangers over the Delta without windscreens due to baboons, you will be absolutely fine." It's the third time it's happened to that company. First time for me. Yeah, so
Things you got to look out for in business.
Yep, hidden costs. Everything's going great, and then that. And so I had to fly, I don't know, I think it's about maybe 90 miles, give or take, from where I was to town. And I could only do 60 knots. After that, the wind was unbearable. Because I had sunglasses, but I didn't have goggles. And so if I went any faster than that, the wind was...
So, sunglasses.
Yeah. Yep. And I could kind of lean almost to the middle, where there was some protection from the wind, but it was still making everything swirl around.
And your ears, right? I mean, you're having pressure changes happening, popping all the time.
And, you can't only lean so far before you're messing with your controls. They're designed for you to sit in the middle of your seat, not over on the other side.
Oh, you're surfing.
So, yeah, it took a long time to do that flight. And then in Botswana, the way it works with air traffic control is there are 4 cities that have a 20 nautical mile radius around them where you need permission or control to get in there. Everywhere else you can do what you want. You don't even have to have a radio, much less talk on it. But when you come in, you have to say who you are, where you are, how many people you have on board, when you expect to be at the field, and that sort of thing. And then they tell you the weather, they give you permission or they don't. Sometimes they make you circle outside or whatever. Because there's a couple times of the day where it's super duper busy for them. But they're like, yeah, come on in. And then a couple minutes later, they said, Alpha 2 Hotel Alpha Sierra, confirm you are a Bell Jet Ranger. I said, Mount Tower, Alpha 2 Hotel Alpha Sierra, affirmative. Silence. Alpha 2 Hotel Alpha Sierra, confirm you will be at the field at whatever time I told them, 20 after 11 or something. I again said affirmative. And so then there's some more silence. And you can tell it's confusing to them because they know my voice. I had to go and meet those people. Because the first time I talked to them, I didn't realize you're supposed to say good morning or good afternoon before you do anything else. It's super important to them. I got in trouble for being rude. Whereas I was coming from the States where being polite like that just takes up airspace. It's a waste of everybody's energy.
It's old school.
Yeah. Yep. So they knew me.
It's endearing.
And they knew
you hurt their feelings.
Which helicopter I was in. And so then they said, are you doing a scenic flight on your way into the field? And I said, no, I'm just going really slow today. And I'm covering up my microphone while I say this because there's so much wind,
How much wind? I mean, how many
miles
per hour?
You ride motorcycles. So you've ridden a motorcycle without a windscreen. Imagine riding a motorcycle at 60 miles an hour without a windscreen, without a helmet, with just sunglasses. It's like that. It's pretty windy. And it's going past you and like swirling in the back seat and coming past you.
That's something else.
Yeah, it was windy. Yeah. And then because of our radio interaction, it got some of them curious. And so when I landed, there was a crowd wondering what was going on.
They suspected.
Yeah, they knew something was amiss.
Only in Africa.
Yeah, probably only in Africa, that one.
That was Shane Patrick talking about flying helicopters in Africa. If you want to learn more about Shane or listen to more 10-Minute Travels, please check us out at 10minutetravels.com.
And we want to remind you to make sure that your sense of humor matches your sense of adventure.